there, Itra here. Today is going to be a brief video going over what preparations I'm doing for the tourism DLC before we get access to it and early access. So going through the dev blogs and the images that we've actually had posted, there are a few things we can glean from that on what sort of resources we're going to need to be bringing in on some things. However, there is going to be a lot of recipes. We don't know exactly what sort of extra items we're going to need to be bringing in. So the first thing I've done for preparations in regards to the tourism DLC is boost up my attractiveness in the city as high as I can at the moment, while leaving enough space. At the present moment, I've got 42,000 attractiveness in the city, and that is because I'm utilizing the 200 town hall bonus from the palace and the 250 cultural set piece bonus from the second tab on the palace. And I currently have a whopping number of 66 town halls on the island, and I have all of the cultural sets completed in the museum, zoo and botanical as well. The next thing I've done is I've freed up some space, as we have got the information in regards to the dev blog that the tourists are not going to want to be traveling too far. We don't know exactly how far that is. However, if you haven't upgraded your roads in your main city over to brick, I would definitely recommend doing that now, as you're probably going to get a boost of the 50% extra range as you would with any public service building. Now I have my public mooring down here,
just as full as last time.
And we have the palace up here, which is near the World Fair and the Research Institute, and it is also in proximity to the cultural sets up here. I did originally have some housing up here, however that's not going to be close enough to the public mooring, so I've just freed up some space down here so I can hopefully put down all the actual extra tourist buildings and extra population down here to offset everything, and it should hopefully be in a nice quadrant.
To see. One has little time for homesickness.
But until we actually find out exactly what the ranges are, we won't know. So I've cleared out a decent space for actually doing this. Now, going into the sets of buildings we actually know that we're going to be getting, we're going to know that we have the bus shelters and a few other ones which are going to be a 3x2 block size, which is just as tall as a house and 2/3 of the way up the cross. We also know that the restaurants are going to be a 7x9 dimension, which I've drawn out here. This is a 7x9 on the outside edge. And looking at the image of the Iron Tower, we don't actually have exact information on it yet, but looking at it, it kind of looks like it's going to be round about 15 by 13 block squares, give or take 1 or 2 on either side, but it looks like 15 by 13, and I've drawn that out here for representation. We have some houses next to it, so if you have a decent amount of places down, be prepared to start either moving or destroying buildings, or if you can have preparation for items, make sure you have a good amount of space available for all the cultural sets and the hotels and bars and restaurants and the Iron Tower. So the next thing I've done in regards to preparation is I've gone out and built up a load of extra populations so I can have an abundance of influence points, because at the present moment in time we don't know whether any of these buildings are actually going to cost influence to actually put down or not. But what you can guarantee is with all these recipes and items that we're going to be crafting in the Iron Tower and the restaurants and such, we're going to need to be importing an awful lot of materials from different islands. So your amount of ships you have at the moment is probably going to end up skyrocketing through the roof. So make sure you have an abundance of either ships ready or an abundance of influence points to actually craft the ship so you can start importing items in. The other thing you can do is on your islands start importing in some of the items that they've shown in their trees of crafting. So things that they showed was the saltpeter peppers, beef, soap, tallow, glass. Those are the couple of things they've shown on the recipes that we're going to be having to use quite a lot of by the looks of it. So we can start importing and getting extra production up. The items that we did see that we can't actually use on the global trade network so far is the cotton and the corn. So what we're going to be doing, or what I've done so far, is just craft up a few extra items just to help bolster some of the production lines. Like, we're going to be getting out some extra printing presses for the actual crops. We're going to be getting down a bunch of seed drills and plows, and any general all purpose production item is going to be very useful because we don't know what it's going to classify as a new item. Now, going back on the cotton, now we can import the cotton from the New World. You can only import via the Global Trade Network processed cotton. However, what you can utilize is the lumberjack huts, and you can also utilize Ms. Rodriguez, which at a 1:4 ratio, you'll actually be getting unprocessed cotton in the Cape or the Old World. And this is going to stack quite nicely with the next item I'm going to recommend people start stacking up on, because we may or may not need it, but you're definitely going to need it for this getting cotton, and that is forest density. Now, we don't know if forest density is going to impact the orchard systems. I don't think it will, but it might do so. If you have some extra secateurs around, or thrashers or ursulas, make sure you have some left over in backup, just in case forest density is an actual thing for the orchards in the other crops that we're going to need. Another two items that I'm going to be looking at probably boosting out on production is probably going to be extra grain and extra flour, as they were talking about sponge cakes. So maybe we're going to be using flour for making cakes, especially in the trifle that it was talking about, the trifle tower. That's going to probably have like sponge fingers in there, so maybe we're going to have to make extra sponge with flour. And they kept on referring in regards to pencils and paper, writing reports and whatnot. So who knows, maybe they're going to expect us to import the paper from Embessa for the notebooks, extra coal for making pencils for the people to write things down. We don't know at this present moment in time, so I definitely recommend bolstering your storage of construction items and any of the items that I've just listed in regards to the other sub-products, and just be ready to adjust your production chains and bolster wherever you can. Going back into Docklands, at this present moment in time, for those items that you can import in, what I'm doing is I have set up different islands to import in a few different items. So we have items like the beef being imported to this island, so I can utilize some of the extra export offices here, and then I have a trade ship just taking it to my main island. And you can do the same with the tallow and the soap, which I have being exported or imported in from this one, and then ships taking it to the mainland. So start utilizing and building a stockpile of all these items across different islands, because we never know what sort of things we're going to need. If you have extra export slots and lots of extra items, start just thinking about what sort of items we're going to possibly use in recipes. And one of the last things we're going to look at is what I'm going to be stockpiling a lot of items into is, as you know, the population in the 1800s were raging alcoholics. They would go through an obnoxious amount of alcohol, whether it be beer, schnapps, rum, champagne. Now with tourism, are we going to be getting another tier of alcohol, or is it going to be combinations of the two? Are we going to be using the champagne and then the salt from the Embessa to be making mimosas or something cocktail wise? There's probably going to be some very interesting drinks that are going to be made with items as well. So we're probably going to end up having either combinations of existing alcohol or a completely new tier of alcohol in for the tourists. Should be quite busy. Now, if there's anything else, I would definitely recommend commenting down in the comments below this video. See if we can get some brainstorming going out before we get access to early access and get some more concrete information in regards to what we're going to be needed to prepare for. Also, it was referring that some of the beauty items like the topiaries and stuff could be useful, but whether that's just going to be aesthetic wise, I'm not too sure. So maybe we want to start buying some of the actual garden set pieces and also getting some of the World Fair architectural items to get some of the extra canals down. We don't know how the items are going to interact, whether it's going to actually be a thing that the tourists are going to be looking for, or whether it's just for a pure aesthetic side of things. It's all going to be very interesting, and there's going to be an awful lot of mechanics that we're going to have to be very adaptable and looking to be changing. Also, don't be scared when tourism kicks in that you're going to have to scrap a lot of items or buildings and redo everything, as this is probably going to be the most impactful and changing DLC in Anno 1800 with all these extra mechanics it's going to introduce. If you did enjoy the video, do appreciate any likes and subscriptions onto the video and channel, and comment down below if you have any other concepts or ideas, and catch me live on Twitch in case you want to hot fire any of the questions over to me while streaming. Take care and stay safe out there.